Hey, what's up, lightboltjoe here. Today we're going to discuss the 2015 action-adventure film Fantastic Four. So this is a reboot, but it's also not because it's its own separate universe. This is an hour, 36 minutes long. You have an incredible cast, right? And we get the introduction of Dr. Franklin Storm in this. First half is great. It's proper introduction, proper character development. We get a 7-year flash forward. And then it's just dumb. And it's so unfortunate. It's a disservice to the characters. It's a disservice to a reintroduction of these characters in a separate timeline, in a separate universe. So we have Miles Teller is Reed Richards. Michael B. Jordan is Johnny Storm. Kate Mara is Susan Storm. Then you have Jamie Bell as Ben Grimm. And so Jamie just looks like an older version of Tom Holland. They have the same exact face. I assume they're from the same part of England, right? Because they have the same exact type of face and they speak the same. And also, they both played Billy Elliot. Billy Elliot was originated by Jamie Bell via the movie, and then Tom Holland originated via the West End show, the Broadway show. So they both play the same character. They both are technically in Marvel films. They both look alike. They both sound alike when they have their regular speaking voice, not their American accent. Their American accents are different. But you have an amazing cast. Miles and Mike coming together again. They were in a film in, 2018, 2019? Or no, wait, it was before that? 2012? I don't know. They were in a film with Zac Efron, which was hysterical. So to see them do another film together, awesome. You have a great group of kids, individuals, playing these characters together. But it's a little strange in regards to the ages. Just because the beginning of the film starts out in 2007, we get middle school Miles, character of Reed, meeting middle school character of Ben. They're in the same science classroom. Ben and, Reed start to become friends. Reed asks, to use some parts from Ben's family's junkyard. Stuff, right? Chet Hanks plays older brother Grimm in this. So, it's a good introduction of characters. We then get a 7-year time jump after Miles and I keep saying Miles. It's Reed Richards. Miles plays Reed. So Reed and Ben are becoming friends, and then we get a 7-year time jump, and it's the end of their high school basically. And we have then another science fair project after the two of them were working on. Well, Reed was working on a project for a matter transporter, a teleporter that Ben was assisting in. Just as this is a part you can use kind of a thing. And then they're at a science fair at a school years later. It's just presumed they're still in school. If it's 7 years later, they're still in school. So they have to be 11 in the first part that we're introduced to, 18 in this part, because then they're talking about school afterwards, right? So then we're introduced to Franklin Storm, Dr. Franklin Storm, and Sue Storm, who are at the science fair, amazed by the teleporter that Reed and Ben are presenting as well. And then Dr. Franklin Storm asks for him to go work with them. So you're like, okay, so the teenagers are then going to work in this company, that Storm is running, this project that he's overseeing in regards to a matter transporter, that Victor Von Doom actually is also around their same age, early 20s-ish, if Sue and Johnny are roughly early 20s-ish, that Reed has then the missing part that Victor's project didn't have. Okay, cool. So they're all working together. They're trying to get this together. It's a different origin of the characters then being exposed to the radiation. Last film iteration we got was that they're astronauts in in a space station, in a Victor Von Doom space station, being penetrated by the radiation. So in this version, we have them being teleported to a different dimension, different world, different dimension, different timeline, if you will. And so they are therefore exposed to the radiation of that area. Victor's left, the others come back. Sue technically is still in our Earth, that world that's presented to us, that Earth. And then she's blasted by the radiation after that. The other three come back. So then it's Ben, Sue, Reed, and Johnny are all then being experimented on by the government. And that's where you lost me. So getting to the point where they then start to be experimented on by the government was fine. And then once that middle of the movie happens, it's just downhill from there. And it's a disservice to the introduction you're giving us because it's a different type of origin. It's a different meet cute. It's a different how these characters came together. Seeing an early, younger Reed and Ben, how they became friends. Awesome. We haven't seen that in film before. So it was cool seeing it. Having the actor who plays Reed Richards, younger Reed Richards, put on prosthetic scars to match Miles' actual scars in real life, because Miles Teller does have scars on his face and on his neck. It was like a dog attack or something like that. That to have that younger actor wear the same type of scars as a prosthetic, referencing it's the same person, so cool. So cool. All for it. And then they're used as props by the government. And I was like, how does this work? Because I've never seen a story of the Fantastic Four being used as props from the government. Of course, there's different versions of Fantastic Four. There's different multiverses incorporating the Fantastic Four in regards to stories and comics. I've not read any of those. But the stories that were always presented is that these astronauts are in space. They get hit by radiation. They then have to fight Victor Von Doom and all these other characters who come about, basically running the streets of Manhattan. It's not a Manhattan story. It's not us going to space story. It's then we're going to a different dimension. Okay, fine. I'm all for the change. Cool. Twist it up a bit 10 years after the first film came out. The 2005 film came out. But then you have them experimented on and used as props, and then Reed just disappears into the jungle saying he's going to find a cure for everybody. We don't ever see him working on a machine to find a cure for everybody. And then they eventually capture him. And then they're brought back and then forced to go to the dimension again. Because that's what the government wants them to do. And then Victor comes back. And then he fights them in their world again. And then they're all sent back to the dimension where Victor is then destroyed. And then they go back to the world again. I'm like, what is the point of introducing all of this information if you're going to just disintegrate Victor Von Doom in a flash at the very end? And then they're going to get their own little headquarters, which is very similar to the Avengers campus. But it's really, they call it Central City. Which, okay, fine. If it's a change that I'm not familiar with in regards to the stories, everybody's familiar with the Baxter Building. So, what's going on? Why are we presented with this very fast pace? We're going to go to the other dimension. Victor comes back. We're going to go back to the other dimension with Victor, destroy Victor, come back to the dimension, and then work on our next projects from now on. We're no longer props. Why introduce Victor Von Doom as a character if you're then just going to disintegrate him? I don't get it. I don't get it. The ending was just so rushed and so dumb compared to the good introduction we got. And then the first half of the second act happened and I was fine. And then they come back to Earth and they start to be experimented on and Reed just disappears. And you're like, what? How is this Reed Richards as the character? He wouldn't do that. Or if you're going to be showing us that he's working on a project, show us that he's working on it. Don't just show us that he can shapeshift his face into getting some spare parts to work on his project in the jungle. Show us him working on the project in the jungle. Show us him experimenting on himself to figure out how to help his friends. Just such missed opportunities. It was not fair to the actors who did a great job with the material that they're given, but prime example, you know, extremely talented individuals with an absolute trash script. And I don't know who approved this. And this is why this failed horribly with critics, failed horribly with viewers alike, failed horribly at the box office. That's why this was a one and done. Never again have we seen these characters, these versions of these characters in other iterations. Now I'm curious if moving forward we'll get other blip, multiverse characters pop up here and there. Possibly. Who knows? We get John Krasinski as Reed Richards in a different timeline in Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. When then Wanda then causes chaos in that universe. So we have 3 Reed Richards. We're about to have 4, Pedro Pascal. So of course we can always have more iterations of Reed Richards. Multiverse is endless now. But multiverse wasn't really a big thing in the broader spectrum when this particular film came out, because this was just a reboot from Fox, which nobody asked for. But then now that we have the multiverse timeline and everything is coming together or not coming together thanks to the Loki series, fine. I can view this now as a multiverse film rather than a direct reboot or remake of the first film, the 2005 film, which has a much better comic aspect, much better group dynamic, in my comparison, in my viewpoint, compared to this 2015 version. 2015 version was not it. It was not. It was not it. It was not giving. I'm sorry to say, it was not giving. No sleigh. So 2015 Fantastic Four, awesome beginning, terrible ending. On to the next review. Mucho mahalo.